whatever it is, it ain't blocking.
Give me a break.
You want a break? I'll give you a break. Me and Julius.
Wait a minute. Just let them
You
handle
get to
this.
rev once, just one time. I swear to God, I'm gonna hit you so hard by the time you come to. Ooh, boy, you're gonna need a new haircut. You understand me? Let's play, fellas.
On the ball. Let's run it again.
Let's go.
All right.
Come on, me.
You all right, Big Petey? You all right?
You really stuck him, Campbell.
Yeah, I love me a little contact, Petey.
Left side.
Strong side.
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 Okay, all right, we are here today. It is June 9th, 2022. It's good to be here. Beer in the conversation. We do what we're doing. We're doing something different today. We have the usual Brother Rashid Muhammad.
Sabnin.
Got Hoos over there on the couch. And special guest today, candidate for our House, is it District 107?
No, it's actually Congressional District 7.
Congressional District 7.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit right before we get into it. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Michael Corbin Saturday.
Yes,
This past
Saturday, correct.
And I have to be honest with you. I thought that what you did was kind of heroic. There was some things that were, I felt like, said that was by an author. And I believe it was the author who authored the book.
He did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of the keynote speaker, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the keynote speaker at the breakfast that we had. The Gwinnett GOP has a breakfast at the first of the month every month. So they always have a keynote speaker or sometimes a couple speakers. But yeah, he was the keynote speaker and author of those books.
Okay, got it. And we're not talking about policy, right? You know, there are a lot of people that may have issues with democratic policy, with politicians who have held office democratically. But I believe what you spoke out against was something that is an ascribed characteristic of an individual and not an achieved characteristic. Something they have no control over.
Correct.
How they look.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be a good way. That'd be a very PC way to put it. Yes.
I mean, that's what we are. We're
Yeah.
political science.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. But yeah.
But I wouldn't do it any justice if I said it for you. Can you do what you did? Because you had me. I kind of developed a bromance for you within that that short amount of time.
Hold on. Can we just set the stage a little bit? So what were you doing at this GOP breakfast, Laris?
I told you last week.
Why don't you tell the folks that didn't tune in last week what was going on?
Okay, all right. So I was invited by Mayor Johnny Christ, former Mayor Lilburn, Johnny Christ, and I was there on his behalf. And actually, I've been invited again next week. Well, excuse me. Actually, we're in this week, so this Saturday, to sit in for Johnny Christ. And upon being there, I got to hear a number of different speakers, as well as communicating with different people, with regard to this new conservative movement and why I'm a part of it and why I want to be a part of it. And I want the brethren and everyone else to know that it is okay. And so there are a lot of issues, preconceived notions, and myth associated with the Republican Party. The biggest one is of racism. The second biggest one is of the wealth of the big man per se and then the little man, or per se the common man, this idea. And so we wanted to dispel those myths, and I met Mr. Michael Corbin, a 41-year-old political science major from the University of Georgia.
Correct.
I'm a political science major from Morehouse College.
Yep.
I'm a lifelong Democrat initially, right? Until I became a man, decided for myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when we first started this show,
Yeah.
which was late 2016. As a matter of fact, I think our first show was about a month before Trump got elected.
You guys have been
And-
around for a while, then, yeah.
I was the odd man out. I was a libertarian with a whole bunch of Democrats. And you know who the biggest Democrat was? This guy. This guy.
I've always been the most outspoken.
he was Barack Obama's defense attorney.
Could have been.
Every time I said something
I
about
didn't
Barack
get a check
Obama,
for it, though.
Larry's put the suitcase out, put his glasses on, go through the case. You know. Anyway, I never thought you'd end up being a Republican. It's all good. It's all good. I'm glad to see us being more diversified in our political beliefs.
well,
So I appreciate it.
Well, after Mr. Corbin explains his position, here's what happened, and I think this is a very important note. We grew up on values, and we didn't realize that as time have gone on, the Democratic Party have abandoned. Well, they may not have even existed, but there were core values within the African American community that the Democratic Party very slowly and incrementally have moved away from. And if you had to look at a two-party system, and you had to look at exactly what each party stand for, you would actually find that the values that we grew up on align more with the Republican Party.
Yes.
In terms of family, spirituality, and everything else.
Yeah.
And so the trick is to make the Republicans and white men in general look like the bad man. But you did something very heroic, and I don't want to diminish that. I'd like you to tell them what happened.
Yeah, no, Laris, I appreciate it. And from a party perspective, that's what the parties want, right? The far right wants to battle the far left. And then you have the rest of America, which have specific core values and are more alike than they are different. And I've been telling everyone, and by the way, I've been labeled a rhino, which is completely as far from the truth as you can get. My campaign manager is personal friends with Donald Trump. I've been on national media. My opponent has not. Dr. Gina Loudon. She's the chairwoman for the board of the Women for Trump. So to be called a rhino, then I guess if Trump's a rhino, I'm a rhino.
Do you mind actually spelling out what rhino actually means for those who are not initiated?
Yeah, they're like Republican in name only. They've labeled me as a Democrat that's basically been, inserted into the Republican Party and inserted by the Democratic Party and running for the Democratic Party. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot of it I think is because, number one, I am married to a African American woman, and she is a Democrat, but she's a moderate Democrat. And in District 7, we have a lot of that, and we're a 16-point underdog going into the election on paper. But with the climate the way it is right now, in terms of inflation, gas price, everything, we have the unique ability to break down barriers of where the Republican Party is demonized and try to bridge that gap. And I think Laris is doing a really honorable job of kind of trying to open people's eyes to that not everybody is in the Republican Party racist. Or the party as itself is racist. There's always going to be that contingent, in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, and hopefully they continue to just go away. That's my hope and dream one day. It's going to happen slowly, but it'll happen. Mm-hmm. But I was there. It was for the Georgia GOP breakfast, and we had a keynote speaker. and he was talking about cancel culture. So he got kicked out of a mall somewhere in North Carolina, I can't remember, because he was selling those books back in, I guess it was back during the Obama era. And he depicted, and people will argue this, and they've argued with me, I can show you a picture of it, Laris has it, and he saw it, of Barack Obama, and it's a caricature of an African American as a monkey, and that's what it is. So they were up there. He was up there talking about cancel culture and his books and how he got kicked out. And as I sat there with my wife next to me, none of this was planned. I just started fuming. Thinking about this is not a reflection on our party. So when I got up there, I called it as it is. I said, I have to say this. I'm a man of principle, and this is not part of what I wanted to say today. But that book is racist. I'm just going to say what it is, and that's what it is. It's racist. It's offensive, and that there is no room in the Republican Party for racism. You can head out the door, and I encourage everyone not to buy that book. There's a difference between freedom of speech and supporting things that are wrong. You can run up and down the street and use racial slurs all you want. It's America. Not going to get arrested for it. But does that mean that you need to be supporting it and saying, that guy should be doing it? No, wrong is wrong. So just call it out. My opponent took the opportunity, Mark Gonzalez, to go up there and support it, saying that if that person wants to say it, I agree. He should be able to say it. Not only saying that he supports free speech, which I'm not saying I'm not supporting free speech, but I am going to condemn racist caricatures of African Americans. That's something that should have died long, long ago in this country. So I called it out. There were people that liked it, and there were people that don't like it.
Right.
In the crowd. So, that's what really happened.
And that's what made it heroic.
Sorry about this.
To me. No, I get it. It happens. That's what made it heroic, because when we start talking about subgroups.
Yep.
Well, there's black men, black women, white women, every subgroup. If I get up there and I say, I don't like what was said, people could say, I could see that coming. Right? You know what I mean? It doesn't have the same vigor, the same fire. But when you do it hit different. And then that's why I said, when we talked the other day, I said, wow, I met the second most intelligent and attractive man in the room. and so, but it was heroic. And I think that you have a bright future.
I appreciate that, and hopefully, because I'm in the runoff, and I would say that's kind of the sad part about runoffs in Georgia, and hopefully one day they change the law in the primaries, because 41% of the vote went to me. He had 25%. That's a pretty big margin of victory. There's really no reason why you should be in a runoff. So now, unless there's a statewide runoff, let's say a governor runoff in the Republican Party, you're not going to get that many people out to vote. So now what you get is those subgroups that come out.
Correct.
So I could very well lose, and now we have this guy who is far right that represents not the party, but the subgroups of the party going in November to lose.
So
and that's what's going to happen. So. Hopefully one day they change those election laws. Now, if you're within, let's say, 5% or 10%, okay, maybe a runoff. But when you've got that big of an advantage, the voters at large within your party have spoken. And there's no need to go back out and have the fringe voters now dictate and marginalize everybody else's votes that came out for the general primary.
I think that even if things don't go the way that you want them to go this time, they're going to go the way you want them to go. Now, I won't hold it. Mike is a Falcons fan. Now,
don't say Saints.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely, I'm a Broncos fan.
My brother's a huge Broncos fan.
Okay,
so, yeah. For some reason, I don't know why he is.
So
he loved John Elway.
I was a big Peyton Manning fan. Now we agree on UGA.
Yeah.
We're going to Braves. And I think we're kind of right there with the Hawks.
They got some work to do still.
Yeah, but the Falcons, I'm like, whoa, okay.
They got a lot of work.
A lot. But if you've ever
Don't get
been
my wife
to,
started on the Falcons. Like,
right, yeah, I don't want to do that.
It's a Herculean task that they actually have ahead of them.
yeah, my wife is a diehard everything Atlanta fan too, and yeah, the Falcons. She's just.
Yeah.
But I said it to say, if you've ever been at a game, if you've seen the wave, right?
Yeah.
And I'm speaking analogously, right? If you see the wave. 1, 2, 3. Every time we try to wave, maybe it don't work, but when it catch,
Yep.
before you know it, the whole stadium is. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think, from what I've seen, and this is my area of study too, just like you, I saw something different that I had never seen before. So, I'll make a proposal before we get on into the next stuff about the racism and all this. If you do not run for governor, if you run for governor, I'll be your lieutenant governor. However, if you do not run for governor, I will run for governor, and you could be my lieutenant.
All right.
I will just, you know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So just so I have been carrying that around, and it just has been wearing me down. So
I'll take the offer.
yeah. So you grew up in West Gwinnett County.
Yeah, Duluth. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right. And
which is part of my district.
all right. So I grew up more in South DeKalb County. I
Okay.
had no white friends because there wasn't any white people there, really. And while we dealt with racism, going through downtown Stone Mountain,
Yeah.
we had to, as a child, we seen the KKK was in full uniform, like full uniform.
Really?
1989, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
See, that was about 2 years before I moved here.
Okay,
Yeah,
from Ohio.
I moved from Ohio when I was like 11.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
so,
it.
Yeah.
And we're a year apart. Okay.
Now I know they used to be in Cumming. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, Cumming used to be like that.
They were in when I moved to Jonesboro, Georgia in 1991. They would be in full uniform on Tara Boulevard. So they were there.
Yeah, when we in
too.
the South, they were in full uniform, and we didn't know what that was. So I remember asking my mom. I said, "Mom, who are these people?" And they like when I say full uniform out in the streets, like collecting donations. And I didn't know who they were. I mean, I'm innocent. I'm a child. And I said, "Mom, who are these people?" And she said that, she told me what that meant, KKK. And then I said, "Well, what do they do?" She's like, "They don't like black people." I said, "Why?" She's like, "Because we're black." I was like, well, that's not good enough reason.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being a precocious young man that I was at the time. But I'm saying that to say they were not only in full uniform, but they were collecting things. Now, I think that they were ignorant. I think that some of the greatest things in life stand on the other side of fear. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some of the greatest experiences in life are on the other side of fear. That's my personal opinion. And so when you're in Georgia and you're a white man, you went to UGA, man. You went to UGA. Tell me, wow, have you always had these views? Look, we had to deal with not just racism, but as a fair-skinned man, I had to deal with hueism, which was just as big as racism. It was this light-skinned versus dark-skinned thing. Briefly, tell me.
Yeah, growing up in Duluth, there was, a good mix, so it wasn't just all white, right? But there's still, it was a culture shock to me. So when I moved down here from Ohio, it was a culture shock to me to see people saying racist things. When we first moved down here, and this is just kind of my first indoctrination into racism within the South was we first moved down here, and somebody from my dad's work, because he got promoted and we moved down here, he was a VP, and we moved down, and somebody, as a joke, put a figurine of a little African American child eating watermelon on our front step. And I was like, well, what is that about? My dad knew what it was about, and he got ticked and threw it away. And we never found out who did it until later on, and it was somebody that he worked with. It was one of his coworkers. So that kind of hit me. I was like, okay, because I didn't really see that in Ohio. And growing up in Ohio, very white. So you're almost not even in Northwest Ohio, where I was at the time. Like in my elementary school, we had no African Americans, not one, until there was one kid that ended up becoming my best friend that in the 3rd grade came into our class, and I actually asked him what he was. Because that's literally
you're a kid, right? Of course, you're curious.
I had no clue. I'd never been.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off. We got along. We became best friends. We played soccer together, basketball. We grew up until we moved, and it was really hard on both of us when we moved. But he was my best friend. So I never really saw that sort of races. I wasn't around it as a kid. So when I got down here, it was sort of, I would hear, white people say the N-word just freely, and you're like,
right,
and I just wasn't from that environment. So I think a lot of what is in me was from how I was raised, where I was raised, and we were talking about this the other night on the phone that I've got friends that were just raised by racist parents. I mean, they were, and they'll say stuff sometimes, and I'm just like that's not you. That can't be you, and you have to talk to them. But it exists. It's not gone. There's some people that I think it's just that's what they were predisposed to, and I think that goes for both sides. I mean,
absolutely,
that they're predisposed to that, and their life is kind of predicting of how they see the other race. And the funny thing is it's just color at the end of the day. I mean, and I was talking to Larry, so I was like, one day it's going to be way past our lifetime, but one day it's going to be very hard to distinguish one race from another.
Yeah.
In my belief, and at a certain point, I think it's just going to genetically work its way out because it's not going to be as recognizable. Can
I take this?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
A couple of things. One, I do think it's more than color. I do think that there are just different cultures that people are raised within. I think that there is, some undergirding of making certain assumptions of some folks that have come from a particular area or background or whatever. I don't endorse just wholesale stereotyping or anything, but I think we're not being realistic if we say that that's not the case, that there are cultural norms that sometimes align with skin color. And I think that's fine. I mean, that's just humans humaning, right? It's just, and I think that it bothers me when we try to ignore that. I think we ignore it to our peril because I think that within that difference, there's a lot of interestingness. And I think that, you talked about, the black friend you had and you asked him what he was. And I think one of the things that bothers me about kind of a lot of current discourse is this idea that if you ask someone where are they from, if they're not white, a white person asks someone where are you from or whatever, and it's this is having curiosity about a person is a thing that you're shamed on, right? And there are probably more politically acceptable ways, I guess, to ask somebody where they're from. But again, we're all humans. We're doing the best that we can. And I think that kind of grace, which I felt used to be extended to people, is just being retracted in a way that I think is just very counterproductive. I'll stop right there.
Comments.
And I definitely agree. And I think going back to when I was in elementary school, kids, they just don't see the world like adults do, and eventually adults become indoctrinated within their culture. They see race, they understand it, and that's where we go wrong, and a lot of it starts in the home and how kids are taught. But at the same time, I agree with you. It's hard sometimes if you're just trying to understand the culture a little bit more. Sometimes it is kind of you're frowned upon for doing that. which is something everybody's kind of got to get past at a certain point.
Well, and I think as a Republican, you're probably a little bit behind the 8 ball on that. I think it's kind of harder for a Republican, just given the weight that the R kind of you know brings along with it.
It does. I mean, and it's it's one of those things where the party's got to change its image because I talk about the new breed of Republican, and Newt Gingrich has even been talking about it, that you're not going to win and you're not going to change people's minds by trying to get just a mobilization of the existing base, right? Let's rally around the existing base. Let's rally around the existing base. Well, that's just not going to work, right? So you have to be able to find people that are bridging gaps and are appealing to more Americans, or you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. So you're going to have to find people that have different views and maybe have different perspectives. But it's a challenge. I mean, it's an uphill challenge. I mean, as many positive things that I've heard from me, just standing up and saying what I did, there's twice if not 3 times more negative things. Because I stand for what I stand for. They're saying I'm race baiting. I'm doing this and doing that, and no, I'm calling it when I see it, and it's wrong. And I wanted to leave it at that, but then other people want to take it and say, oh, he's race baiting. If I was race baiting, I would have been premeditating that and doing that my entire time while I was campaigning. That was because it was spur of the moment. I saw that image, and it's wrong. So
and you can't race bait if you're married to a black woman and you have 2 mixed children.
I mean,
Exactly.
you hold on. I mean, you can't.
You can, but I mean.
Okay, all right.
I mean, but did he plan that?
I don't know what's in the man's heart. I'm just saying that, I mean, look, you get a little street cred, sure. A little street cred comes along with that. I don't know if it's like total absolution is a point I'm just making.
I mean, man, shit, 18 years. How old are your babies?
They're, Chloe's birthday is tomorrow. She'll be 8. And then next week is Kayla. She'll be 5.
I'll just say this. As a father of a 17-year-old daughter, really, I got 2 when you think about it, because they're dying. I got 2 stepdaughters too. When you think about that's a hell of a gimmick to pull off financially.
Yeah.
That's a life. That sounds like a lifestyle. That doesn't. I'm saying to me. You know what I mean?
I don't think. Yeah, and my point is just that. I mean.
If he doesn't,
we're not assuming the man's marriage is in bad faith. Right?
Sure, okay,
we're not making that assumption.
It's one of those things. I mean, I would definitely say if it was like if I was using it throughout my campaigning as an instrument to divide voters, then yeah. But when it's a spur of the moment thing where I see something and I'll look. I mean, I can't imagine myself bringing that book to my kids and being like, "Look at this,"
Right.
I mean, like, who in their right mind can do that? To me, only a racist could sit there and bring that book to a child and say, "Look at this," and
right.
and not say this isn't wrong.
And on the other side, I have heard bad jokes or bad things said. I think it's equally bad when black people. Tim Scott is extremely intelligent, and because we cannot attack content, to say that he looks like Mushmouth from Fat Albert is wrong.
I don't think it's wrong. Look,
I haven't heard that.
I mean, look, I'm gonna say something that I think Michelle Obama looks a little bit like a gorilla. I still think she's beautiful. I still think she's cool. I like her. I don't have any problem with her.
Sure.
I think that I think George W. Bush was like a little like a monkey. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think people kind of look like these things. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a bigger question about
sleep with Michelle Obama.
I mean, that's
under the right.
I don't know that we can't. Let's not go there.
I would. That's what I'm saying.
You keep it 100. You keep it 100 as always, Larry.
If I wasn't married,
all I'm saying.
But go
right.
ahead. Yeah, okay.
All I'm saying is that. So I mean, there is this undercurrent in American culture that is a function of American history where there is a double standard, right? Where you can draw Bush as a monkey. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many times did we see that when George W. Bush was president, right? Because he looks like a freaking chimp. He does, all right? And again, just a man looks like a chimp doesn't, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, you know, you do that for Barack Obama, and it's taken a completely different way.
But if it's done in the sense of roasting, see, I'm with you. If we're gonna do a roast, cause we Jones, like this is thing in the black community. I don't know if y'all did that in Gwinnett County. Wait, were you right? Ohio, you was City of Atlanta Public Schools.
I was on the south side. I was Clayton County. But we Joning the dozens all.
Okay,
I mean,
so we had this thing called Joning. If we're doing it in a sense of Joning, that's one thing. If we're doing it in a sense of discrediting an individual, like, look at him, why would you listen to him? And that's all I'm saying. And then can the mind delineate the difference between the two?
But that's the thing. But it's funny you bring up Joning, because that's like the whole fine line of Joning. It like threads the line between like being funny and like actually like going after somebody personally, right? Like that's the thing, right?
Well, only comedians can get away with that.
What I'm saying, but that's what Joning is. Like, you know, we make fun of each other, and like sometimes we make fun of each other because we got some baggage that we trying to like dump on somebody.
I mean, I'll say this is, you know, yeah, there are caricatures of white people that, you know, and you can get away with it easier, but we have to be honest about American history as well. You know, those caricatures date back a long time, so they carry a lot more weight in my mind when it's of an African American as you know, depicted as a monkey than it is George Bush. That's my opinion. But I mean, that's just because it carries the weight and the history of everything with it. And to me that's different, right? I mean, if you're white and you're depicted as something like that, it just doesn't carry that weight.
And to give credence to the speaker, he's in the private rooms that we're not in. He hears things that we don't hear.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that to be controversial. I'm saying that there are cultural conversations that happen.
Sure.
To ignore that, you know what I mean, is
sure.
to...
I'm just trying to say the quiet part out loud, so we talking about all the things, right?
Let's address the elephant in the room.
Let's just talk about it, yeah.
By the way, the guy I met at the event said that a week before, he got to sit with Nick Saban, speaking of elephants in the room. Georgia is going to dust that ass this year.
We'll
go for it.
Yeah. Who would have thought that Stetson Bennett would have been the next coming of Christ, for Georgia? I will not get on anybody else that is in politics that may have went to the University of Georgia. However, would like to know, how do you feel about? Let me say something. Let me tell you a problem I have with Democrats. They sell division and oppression, in my opinion. Right? How can we say biblically that one man's given 5 talents, one given 3, one given 1. And then in the Old Testament it says, your gift will make room for you. But we're constantly telling people, if you don't vote for us, if you don't side with us, you don't have a fair shake because of racism. That's what they say. You need our help. But they really kind of undermining God when you think about it, because God is the one that have given everybody a unique talent. Some people got more than one talent.
Yep.
You know? So, abortion. I'd love to get your thought on that. I have had people that I've discussed about abortion. All right, so, boar of bad fruit. I am against abortion when it comes to rape, incest, or sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
You're against it when it comes to that.
No, all right, let me rephrase that. I am...
You can make an exception for those
I would
situations.
make an exception.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Abortion as a form of birth control, I don't agree with. Although, I don't agree that if God give man free will, then who is man to take free will from man? If that's what they want to do, then that's fine. But I don't think the government should have a hand in helping to subsidize that. How do you feel about that?
Well, you bring up free will, and it's actually just our preacher this past Sunday was just talking about that. And this is one thing that humans can never wrap their minds around, because it also says we're predestined.
Yes. It's a
So
paradox.
why would he give us free will if we're predestined? And there's just some things that our small minds will never understand. So, and that's how God made us, right? Just like my pastor, his analogy was like a dog. Like, right, a dog's gonna track with you for a while, right? Sit, food, dog. But you start reading a book, he's not gonna be like, hey, can I read that book? Like, there's just some things that we're not gonna understand about what God's design is, and you just have to go back to, I have comfort in His will, and what happens is His will, right?
Sure.
And sometimes His will, just throughout the New Testament, sometimes that was to punish His people, right? I mean, it happened time and time again to bring them back, and that's happened, in our country, right? But when it comes to the topic of abortion, I'm pro-life, right? I do.
I am as well.
Yeah, and I do believe that if the baby or the mother's life is in danger, then yeah, they can make that decision. When it comes to rape and incest,
It's sex trafficking.
It's sex
which is
trafficking.
big.
It's been harder on me in recent years to say I support that, because I've met people
Right.
that have been born out of that. And I challenge anyone that says, well, they should be able to do that, to go talk to somebody who's alive that was a product of incest or rape. So it's always never an easy topic. So people are like, yeah, that should be her right. And a lot of people are like, yeah, it should be her right. And then you meet somebody that is alive, breathing, living a great life. And if their mother had chosen to do that, they wouldn't be around.
Well, and I mean, that extends to poor people as well, right?
Yeah.
One of the big arguments is just like, well, if she has this kid, she doesn't have the money, he's going to grow up poor, he's going to be, and then you get to the whole, like, abortion cut crime, like the whole Freakonomics argument and that sort of thing. And so, like, I think it goes even further. It goes to the idea that, like, are all poor people just condemned, or all people that are born to a poor mother just condemned to a horrible life? And there are a lot of testimonies out there that are not that.
Yeah. But I do think, to piggyback off of that, Republicans, and those that are pro-life need to understand that, there are people that are living in circumstances where they didn't find themselves or want themselves having a baby, that there needs to be more support for that.
Absolutely.
For the baby, if they choose to keep the baby. If it goes through adoption, the baby goes through adoption, but there should be a way where there's a better support system for them to make a choice that's going to be less beneficial for them but more beneficial for the baby. So I think a lot of them make it based on circumstances at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that it can be a little hypocritical to say pro-life, but we're not going to provide funding and more support for you if you have a baby and you're in poverty, right? So there's got to be that part of it as well.
I totally agree. I wonder if, I don't actually hear anyone saying that though, right? Like, I don't hear people saying like, we're pro-life, we want to restrict abortion, and we don't want to support the mothers, I think that, and again, maybe this better than I do, but again, I hear that argument a lot.
Well, I don't think they don't say we don't want to support them. They just leave it at, basically, I'm pro-life, have the baby, and then that's where they
just soundbite the hell out of it.
They just stop. People just stop there, and I am pro-life, but I also understand that if you're going to say you're pro-life, that you also have to understand that some of these situations are precarious situations, and
absolutely
that there needs to be more support around helping the people that make the decision to keep the baby. Otherwise, you're just putting somebody in a very bad position, and that's why a lot of abortions happen, because they don't want to be in a very bad position.
Well, and I think the flip side, and I'm sorry, Lance, I
No,
think the
man,
flip side is
enjoy.
that I think where there is hypocrisy might be more on like the birth control side.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are flippant about it, and that can't be. I mean, I have no tolerance for that. Say, hey, I made a mistake, get rid of it, right? And there's some extreme laws on the books in different states. Especially like in California, there's still a House bill out there, I believe, that's up to birth.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know if you know how basically disgusting this is, but when they do that, they actually turn the baby around so you can't hear it screaming during the actual abortion process.
Now, I had heard about something. JoJo, can I get a pen and a piece of paper real quick? Just very quickly. Now, I had heard something about a bill that would allow for mothers to not be prosecuted.
For like crossing state lines or something like that.
No. Here, actually, you can. A bill to not be prosecuted if indeed the baby is born and the baby dies or something like that. It was really, really weird. But as a result of the baby being addicted to whatever controlled or illegal substance that the mother was, they couldn't be prosecuted for murder or something like that.
So it's a loophole, basically.
Right.
So you're saying that like a late term abortion, there's an exception for a late term abortion in the case that there's
Well, in this case, the baby would actually be born.
Yeah. So and that maybe I remember the guy from not North Carolina, Virginia, was it Northam? Was that his name?
Yeah.
Who had made the comments about like even after the baby's born, like he and the mother like we talk and we make a decision and that sort of thing. Like is that the context? Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
No, you're right. Okay, so I think we covered that. Here's the big thing. This is so meaty. Firearms.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of mass killings. Is it the individuals or is it the guns?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the people pulling the triggers, right? But guns make it easier to kill people, right? So, I mean, it's a chicken and the egg sort of scenario there.
Actually, it isn't, in my opinion.
Yep.
If the United States, and I mean, we are arms dealers and we have fiat currency, and so I know that our dollar is backed by being in a perpetual state of war.
Can you take that to JoJo?
Yeah. But if the United States can control weapons of mass destruction internationally so that people don't have access to harm us or other people, why domestically? Now listen. Growing up, did you play Oregon Trail on the Apple computer?
I did, yeah.
You did?
Dysentery.
Remember you had
all
to,
that stuff, yeah.
Did you hunt the buffalo too?
Yeah.
Like I did? And sometimes you had too much meat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We don't live in the days where we're hunting our own meat anymore. Communism, capitalism. Capitalism, the undergird is private property. To properly mechanize that, you have to have the ability to protect private property. I think we need firearms to protect private property, right? You work for something, you earn it, you should be able to protect it. Whether it's your farm.
Can I just quickly interject that the most important piece of private property that anybody owns is themselves? All right.
Well, self-preservation is, it gets no higher than that. Now, how can the USA how can we justify assault rifles? And this is the reason I'm asking you this, because you're going to have to deal with this. You're not going to be able to circumvent it or talk your way. How can we deal with it?
Yeah,
should there be a vetting process? What do you think?
The biggest issue with the Second Amendment is how do you interpret it? And in the Second Amendment, it says you have the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed upon. So people will say, well, that's what that means, right? You know, it cannot be infringed upon. So I think there's a lot of people that find it to be a slippery slope if you start to take any other stance against it. Now, why do you need assault rifle? I mean, hell if I know. I mean, I don't know anybody who can actually say this is why I need an assault rifle. Outside of, you know, I think that there's going to be, you know, Armageddon one day, right? Like, I don't know why, like, a lot of people need, you know, an AK-40. Like, why do you need AK-47?
Two explanations I heard. One woman told me that things are getting bad, and if 20 people want to invade her home, she needs to be able to use her assault rifle. I said, do you think that 20 people will come to your home with no arms? If you have 20 people shooting at you, it doesn't matter what you have, you're dead. If the government has nuclear warheads and they want to come and get you, because the other guy says, well, in case of some sort of insurrection, we need them. Do you think that we have bigger guns than the government? Do you think that if the government wanted to hit you, look at Tulsa, that an assault rifle is going to save you from the government hitting you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to save you from the government. I think, to me, it's about responsibility. You know, I think, you know, is it assault rifle? Do you need an assault rifle? No. I do think that, you know, it does make our country unique. I mean, even, you know, back during World War II, the Emperor of Japan was like, I would never invade the United States because under every blade of grass there's a gun. So it does also, you know, in times of war, like, you got to think about other countries ever thinking about trying to invade us in a land assault. Not only are you invading and having to fight the army, you're fighting just about every American there. So there is a, you know, a use for it, but what is the common use for it? Why would you need it really, you know, for self-defense? I can't really justify that. I mean, if 20 people break into your house, you're not taking out 20 people, they're taking you out. So that
I don't give a damn how good a shot you are.
So it's about responsibility, and I think there can be ways to fix this and to curb it. You know, Florida, which is one of the, you know, reddest states out there, has a law. It's called the red flag law, where basically idiots who own guns that do stupid stuff, they get reported. The police officers go to the scene. They get reported to the judicial system. They review that person's history with that gun, and if it is deemed that they are irresponsible, they take it. They've taken over 8,000 guns away from basically people that, I mean, you should read some of the cases that they've taken these guns away from people, and gun violence has dropped in the state of Florida. If you can put a national program like that together, or try to put it together at the state level, you can curb some of it. Now, you ever going to rid gun violence in the United States of America? No, but can you rid these type of people that are, you know, we'll call them what they are. I mean, idiots, right? You know, they had a bad day at work, so they're going out in the cul-de-sac and firing off guns into the air, right? Report that. Why does that person need to have a gun? I mean, they're not using it responsibly. That's ridiculous. So it will curb people from doing stupid stuff. Another thing is, we need to spend money to protect our kids. You could, you know, it would cost X amount of billions of dollars, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to what we just gave Ukraine. And if you put one single trained FBI agent at every elementary school in the United States, would be about $8 billion a year, and paid them $100,000. If you did that at every elementary school, just think how many crazy people are going to probably think twice before they go in there. Number one, you may not succeed at all. Number two, if you try to do anything, you're probably going to get dropped.
Yeah.
Okay. They can't see me, but they can't hear me. But obviously, I was talking to Larry.
Where's your remote? I mean, not your remote, your mic.
It's fine. I was talking to Laris about this, and the bottom line is, I said something to him about the Ukraine, because obviously, it's $41 billion.
Yeah.
And I literally, obviously, the Buffalo shooting was horrific. Uvalde was horrific, and I don't even know. I think these things, you can prevent them. I don't know how preventable they are, right? Like, let's say, obviously, drugs, like when I say drugs, like cocaine, heroin, meth, these things are illegal in the States, but people still seem somehow a way to get their hands on them.
Just like alcohol and prohibition, people are going to find a way.
Right. So even if you raise the age limit on guns, okay, fine, raise it to 21, 25. Well, it'll be nothing for a 30-year-old to go buy a 25-year-old or 21-year-old gun, if you understand what I'm saying, or somebody knows a gun store owner or whatever. I don't know. But my whole point is to tie it back in. $41 billion to Ukraine, and America's infrastructure is not as strong as it needs to be.
Yep.
And I sympathize with the people of Ukraine, but all I'm saying is like, before we start cutting these large checks.
Thank you.
Before we start cutting these large checks, we need to make sure the home is taken care of first.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
I mean, so I might have an assault rifle at home. I might have a lot of fun with it at the shooting range.
At the shooting range?
I might know people that like to go out and hunt boars who are way overpopulated down in middle and south Georgia and are completely destroying farmland and all that other sort of stuff.
Videos of people from like the helicopters that are just like...
Yeah, you see through the scopes. Yeah. And that is actually a public service.
Yeah.
I guess my thing. So number one, I think part of the problem is I don't know that we even think about this problem correctly. Number one, most gun violence is suicide, which is mostly handguns. Two, most shootings outside of that are still handguns.
Yep.
I was looking at data the other day about like even police that are killed, and one interesting thing about like the police that are killed is only half of those cases do they actually know what type of weapon, or do they actually report the type of weapon. But it's still mostly handguns. I don't know that, the mass shootings, the school shootings, Uvalde and Dylan Roof and like that's the stuff that gets all the like the publicity.
Yeah.
But like the problem is not that. The problem is a bunch of black kids in urban areas shooting themselves with these weapons is the problem.
It is.
And that is indicative of a greater social decay and problems in the black community, and does not have a lot to do with these laws we're talking about putting out there.
Growing up,
I agree.
our video games were Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Super Contra, games that indoctrinate the mind at an early age to look at violence as a way to mitigate issues with people. So, but I do agree with you. But I think in this particular case, with America, the blanket that keeps you warm at night also smothers you at the same time. And so, while I am, there's something about a feeling. Like feelings are, and I'm gonna let you go. Feelings are fleeting. If you properly vet somebody, then you restrict access to certain things. They might wake up the next morning. Maybe they were upset on Tuesday, and they went and said, "No, I need this assault rifle now." They didn't get approved for it till Friday. They might not feel like doing the shit that they was going to do on Tuesday. I don't know that. What I am saying is that
in some cases,
still
I'm sure.
do it, but I'm saying that they might. Feelings are fleeting. They're within a moment.
I mean, but these kids, like, they plotted for a while. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole thing about
we're talking about Columbine?
No, we're talking about Uvalde, like, and the Buffalo guy.
That guy planned the heck out of
He
that.
clearly planned that, and he waited until his birthday to get, like, he can't wait a little bit longer. I mean, I'm just saying, or can he just go in with handguns or whatever? The bigger issue, I think, with Buffalo was that dude had body armor on. He got shot a few times, but his body armor stopped it. I think that there could be an argument there. There's an argument for just more, like, regulation around, like, fire, like the opposite of what Kemp just did, right? I'm not necessarily against what Kim just did, but I'm
I
just
love
saying
Kim.
if we're gonna have
You
that,
don't love
if
Kim?
we're gonna have the conversation, we can certainly talk about like
you don't-
higher levels of vetting for people who own firearms. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing.
Listen. Right now, I saw something that the Federal Aviation Administration have grounded pilots. We have a pilot shortage in this country, and at 65 they have to retire. That's crazy. Because you have 65-year-old men who are saying that
I can
I
still
was
fly.
forced to retire, and if there's a start and stopping age to any, I'm saying you wouldn't. Listen, I don't give a damn how good a pilot is. I don't want to be in a plane with a guy that's 18 flying a plane. Would you?
I mean, if you're
I don't
measuring
wanna-
their
I don't wanna
skills,
be in a country where a president's 80-something years old.
yeah, I think we're all on the same page there.
I think there's everybody's got to be respectful of it. I mean, there's definitely people's lives. You become mature, but as you get older, you become wiser. But
Sure.
your body fails you, your mind fails you, and at a certain point, it becomes a liability, right?
Yes.
Just like when you're in your youth. Becomes a liability because you're more impulsive. You don't think.
Right.
You haven't lived a life. So there's that spectrum there.
Yes.
But, at the end of the day, when it comes, I think laws on the books as well, they need to be tougher, right? Especially when it comes to planning mass shootings or anything of that nature. And if we're to put more of a structure in place to where these things can be reported to the agencies, and if you're even planning and they find a gun on you and you have obviously planned it out before you do it, that penalty needs to be severe. Because now you're going to be stopping a lot of people from even thinking about it, playing with it, toying with it in their head.
How do you feel about the death penalty just automatically? I mean, like...
Damn, Jess, you're just going straight to the death penalty,
No,
man.
Seriously. And I only say that because, I grew up a Christian. I went to Christian school in Eagles Land Christian in McDonough, and I've danced around with a couple of religions. Not that I practice, but like just studying them. And I could be wrong. I think the Old Testament is what, an eye for an eye. I mean, how do we feel about immediate punishment? Like,
But that undermines the dispensation of grace that happened in the New Testament. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean...
Getting all theological up in here.
But this is my whole point, and maybe it does, but then just get rid of the Old Testament as together.
Well, wasn't that the whole thing, right? Wasn't that the
if
fulfillment of the law? Sorry.
Right. If put it this way, if the Old Testament doesn't have any relevance today, why do we even talk about it?
The Old Testament was written for our learning. The Old Testament was also written so that we would have a measuring stick to see ourselves. Okay. Under even Muslims, under the 10 Commandments, and I would probably even, I dare not say the J word here, but... So
Dylan Roof deserves grace, but Trayvon Martin deserves to be killed immediately.
I didn't say that. And I would never,
I hate to parallel the two. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. Or what was the guy in
essentially what we're saying is that there is a final judge at the end of the day. That's what you know what I mean, and that judge is going to make the decision. I think that Mr. Corbin talked about predestined, and so sometimes we get off track a little bit. But predestined, we got the GPS. You can always get off track with free will and decision making, whether you're Jonah or whether you're the GPS, right? But predestined means that even if you go 500 miles in the wrong direction, the GPS is going to continue to turn you back. It's going to take you longer to get where you're supposed to be, to your point. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. Man, I understand what you're saying.
So death penalty.
Basically, that's kind of...
Yeah, my stance on it is, there has to be some sort of repercussions for doing something that is barbaric and ridiculous, right? At the end of the day, whether it's war or you're having to kill somebody because they killed other people, I mean, what's the difference between that and war, right? You know, that person, you know, you're shooting somebody, you know, because they're from a different country and their country told them to shoot you. You know, so, you know, when it comes to man killing man, it's going to happen, but when it comes to God, he's the final judge, and it's not on this earth, right? So is he going to get grace in another lifetime? I don't know. Or in heaven, I don't know. I'm not that judge, but when it comes to if you go and kill that many people in a grocery store, what is the purpose of you sitting around in a jail? And
good point.
You know, I mean, what is the purpose for here on earth? You know, so I think there has to be some sort of swift and harsh judgment, but otherwise people will make decisions based off of what they think may or may not happen to them. That, okay, even if I do this, I'm not going to die. Because everybody's scared. Most people are scared of dying, but a lot of these people that do this, they don't want to die, but they'll end up dying because they get shot by the police, so they'll take their own life. But, you know, they don't want to die at the end of the day. So...
It would seem like, I'm sorry, it would seem like...
Go do it in 30 seconds. Go ahead.
It just would seem like maybe we finish another time, but it almost would seem as if death is more peaceful than hell on earth for some people. I'm not saying that for myself, but...
Depends on what state of mind
Sure.
you're in.
Maybe
Sure.
hell on earth, i.e. prison, is worse than the idea of dying, because let's say you don't follow a religion, you don't know... you don't know what's going to happen afterwards.
Oh, right. You know what? This has been. You got something you want to say?
I mean, I guess my thing is that I was reading some Washington Post article, and apparently some people had done a bunch of research on mass shooters or whatever, and they had the idea that like a lot of these things are actually suicides. A lot of these like mass shootings are actually suicides. And again, I didn't look into research, and most research that gets quoted in media these days is garbage. So that very well could have been the case here. I thought it was an interesting perspective. But anyway, it was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Corbin.
Yeah, Mr. Michael Corbin. You have anything you want to part with today?
No, I appreciate you having me on, you know, and, you know, the point of it was, you know, to be on the show as we talked was, you know, to try to, you know, break down barriers, right, when it comes to our political parties. And unfortunately, you know, we have two political parties, it's a two-political party system, but we do have to have people like yourself and me that are trying to get people to open their eyes and stop the party fighting, because our country, our forefathers never envisioned it being a two-party system.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say this. Thank you, Mr. Michael Corbin, for coming on. We had a great discussion. We will do this again.
Thank you.
Go ahead and prepare my outro. I would say this. When they go high, we go higher, as I said on Saturday. And they say no justice, no peace. I say no order, no peace. Send me that outro. Let's do it.
What was that, Ray? Whatever it is, it ain't blocking.
Give me a break.
You want a break? I'll give you a break. Me and Julius got a
Wait a
break.
minute, just let them
We
handle
get to
this.
rev once, just one time. I swear to God, I'm gonna hit you so hard by the time you come to. Ooh, boy, you're gonna need a new haircut. You understand me? Let's play, fellas.
On the ball, let's run it again.
Let's go,
All right.
Come on, me.
You all right, Big Petey? You all right?
You really stuck him, Campbell.
Yeah, I love me a little contact, Petey.
Left side.
Strong side.
Left side.
Strong side.
Left side.
Strong side.